Welcome to Practical English Studio Episode 8. I'm your host, Chris, and today we are diving into a topic that I think affects almost all of us, the building blocks of a meaningful and brain-healthy life. To help us understand this, I'm thrilled to welcome our guest, Jessica, a neuroscientist and wellness expert. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, to start, I want to talk about a paradox that seems to define modern life. We have access to endless information on how to live well, eat better, sleep more, exercise, but so many of us feel completely exhausted. Why is that?
That's the absolute heart of the issue, and it is a true paradox. For your listeners, a paradox is a situation that seems strange because it has two opposite features that are both true. We have more knowledge than ever, yet we feel worse than ever.
Exactly. So what's driving this disconnect?
A huge part of it is our culture. We live in a society that covertly worships burnout. We treat chronic busyness as a badge of honor. Somewhere along the way, we flipped the script. We began living to work instead of working to live. So even when we know the right things to do, actually doing them feels like an uphill battle against an unyielding current.
You used two great words there. First, covertly. Can you explain that for our audience?
Of course. Covertly means secretly or in a hidden way. No company's mission statement says we encourage burnout, but the expectation to be on all the time sends that message secretly.
That makes sense. And the other word, unyielding?
Unyielding means something that is very strong, determined, and doesn't give up or bend. So that feeling of pressure is constant and powerful.
I think many listeners can relate to that. And for someone listening who feels completely drained, the idea of self-development might just sound like another exhausting task.
Absolutely. And if that's you, I want to be very clear. This conversation is not another lecture. We are not handing you a new, complicated checklist. The goal today is to show why focusing on meaning and brain health isn't about doing more. It's about giving yourself permission to stop performing and start healing. We're going to bridge the gap between deep philosophy and hard neuroscience to show you how to rebuild from the inside out.
That's a great frame. So, where do we begin? You have a concept you call the ecosystem of me. What is that?
It's a metaphor to help us manage our lives more gently. Instead of thinking of yourself as a business to be managed, I want you to imagine yourself as a rich, delicate, and interconnected ecosystem.
Okay, I like that. So in this ecosystem, who's in charge?
Your conscious awareness isn't a ruthless CEO, it's the head caretaker or the steward.
Steward. What do you mean by that exactly?
A steward is someone whose job is to protect and take care of something important. In this case, that something is you. This steward oversees all the vital habitats in your ecosystem: your physical body, your mental landscapes, your values, your relationships, your work, and what I call your emotional rivers.
Mm-hmm. And I assume if one habitat is neglected, the others suffer?
Precisely. The entire ecosystem faces collapse. Let's take the emotional rivers, for example. In our overstimulated world, when a difficult emotion like sadness or anger rises up, our first instinct is often to numb it, maybe by scrolling on our phones, or ignore it so we can keep working.
Right? To just push through.
Exactly. But science shows us that emotions are essential messengers. They're evolutionary data. When we suppress them, they don't vanish. They get trapped inside, creating a heavy psychological burden that quietly drains our energy day after day.
So emotions are like a biological alarm system?
That's a perfect way to put it. Their discomfort is designed to make us pause and listen. They carry messages about our unmet needs. Facing them is the only way to move forward cleanly without carrying their weight into tomorrow.
So, being a good steward of this ecosystem means listening to those alarms. How does this connect to finding a meaningful life? Many people think that requires some grand heroic act.
That's a common misconception. True meaning rarely requires becoming a hero. It blooms from a quiet, authentic connection to yourself and those around you. It's built from micro moments in ordinary days.
That's a powerful idea, that our emotions are data, not a defect. But for many people, especially when they're already stressed, engaging with a strong emotion like anxiety or frustration can feel like opening Pandora's box. How can we listen to these alarms without letting them flood the whole ecosystem?
That is a crucial question, Chris. The goal isn't to be swept away by the river of emotion, but to observe it from the riverbank. One of the most effective, evidence-based techniques for this is a simple practice called labeling, or as Dr. Dan Siegel memorably put it, name it to tame it.
Name it to tame it. I like the sound of that. How does it work in practice?
It's a simple, non-judgmental practice. When you feel a strong emotion, you just pause and name it. For example, this is anger, or I'm feeling overwhelmed. The neuroscience here is fascinating. When you label the emotion, you engage the thinking part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. This sends a calming signal down to the more reactive, emotional part of your brain, the amygdala, which helps to lower the intensity of the feeling.
And relationships are a key habitat in that ecosystem.
A critical one. We have extensive data showing that chronic isolation is a massive biological hazard. On the flip side, protecting your relational habitat with high-quality social interactions actively builds cognitive resilience and keeps your brain structurally healthy.
Okay, so we have this beautiful idea of being a steward to our inner ecosystem. But how do we protect it in the real world? Let's talk about time and recovery. Why is it so hard for us to just stop?
Because we've been taught that rest is a luxury prize you earn only after you've done everything else. That is fundamentally wrong. Rest is not a prize. It is a fundamental biological requirement for you to exist as a functioning human being. You have full permission to stop.
And there's some incredible science behind why, especially concerning sleep. You call it the brain's washing machine. Tell us about that.
Yes, this involves something called the glymphatic system. During deep sleep, this system kicks into overdrive.
Let's pause there. The glymphatic system. That's a new term for many of us. What is it?
Think of it as the brain's unique cleaning system. While the rest of your body has the lymphatic system to clear out waste, the brain has this special process. When you're in deep sleep, the space between your brain cells actually expands, and cerebrospinal fluid rushes through, acting like a biological washing machine. It flushes out metabolic waste and toxins that built up while you were awake.
Wow. So what happens if we don't get enough deep sleep? The washing machine doesn't run?
Exactly. The cellular cleanup fails. Toxic metabolic waste, including things like amyloid proteins, which are linked to Alzheimer's, begins to accumulate in the brain. This structural buildup directly impairs your thinking, your emotional regulation, and your daily resilience.
That's incredibly motivating. It makes setting boundaries around rest feel less selfish and more like an act of survival.
It is an act of survival. You have to explicitly calendar your recovery, schedule downtime, and then you must guard those blank spaces in your schedule with the same fierce, unyielding professionalism you'd use to protect a critical work project. Remember the law of energy. You cannot pour for others from an empty cup.
So we've covered rest and the brain's cleaning cycle. This connects perfectly to our next topic, the body. Let's talk about movement. How does moving our body alter our mind?
This is one of the most direct connections we can make. We can't talk about a healthy mind without honoring the physical container it lives in. Without the body, the mind does not exist. Physical movement isn't a punishment for what you ate. It is primary, essential maintenance for your brain.
And the benefits are immediate, right? What happens in the brain the moment we start moving?
Instantly. First, you get a circulation boost. Blood flow and oxygen to the brain spike, which sharpens your cognitive processing. Second, you get a wonderful neurochemical cocktail. Exercise releases dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins, which rapidly reduces stress and elevates your mood. And third, movement activates your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for focus and planning.
This all leads to a much bigger, more profound concept in neuroscience, neuroplasticity. Can you define that for us?
I'd love to. Neuroplasticity is the remarkable fact that your brain is not a static, unchangeable piece of hardware. It is the brain's ability to change and reorganize itself by forming new connections between brain cells throughout your entire life.
So the old idea that the brain is fixed after a certain age is wrong?
Completely wrong. To give you an analogy, think of interventions like antidepressants. They can be incredibly helpful for opening a biological window of plasticity in a brain that's stuck. But the medicine itself doesn't build new, healthy roads. True, lasting change requires you to do something with that open window. Things like therapy, meaningful lifestyle changes, or physical movement, which actively guide that plasticity toward positive, resilient pathways.
That's such a powerful idea. If neuroplasticity is the goal, the ability to change our brain for the better, is there a specific molecule or factor that helps us do that?
Yes, there is. If listeners remember one acronym today, I hope it's this one: BDNF.
BDNF, what does that stand for and what is it?
It stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. In neuroscience, we often call BDNF the miracle grow or fertilizer for the brain. It's a special protein that does three amazing things. It protects your existing brain cells, it speeds up your ability to learn, and it directly stimulates the birth of new neural connections.
Brain fertilizer. I love that. So the obvious next question is, how do we get more of it? How can we flood our brains with this miracle fertilizer?
There are three fantastic research-backed ways. The first is through strategic exercise. Cardiovascular exercise like jogging or cycling, and short, intense bursts of high-intensity interval training, or HIIT, dramatically multiply the amount of BDNF in your system.
How much exercise does it take?
It doesn't have to be an hour-long session. Some studies show that even a single, focused 6-minute interval of intense physical effort can be enough to significantly spike your BDNF levels.
That's very achievable. What's the second way?
Focused nutrition. Eating a vibrant, antioxidant-rich diet full of what are called flavonoids helps support BDNF production. Think of deep-colored berries, high-quality green tea, and even a small amount of dark chocolate. Also, practices like intermittent fasting can act as a beneficial stressor that tells the brain to produce more BDNF to protect itself.
Exercise and nutrition. Makes sense. What's the third strategy?
Lifestyle enrichment. Your brain health responds beautifully to your sensory environment. Simple things like engaging with music, singing, and getting direct exposure to natural sunlight have all been shown to support healthy BDNF expression and overall cognitive health.
This has been so insightful, Jessica. As we begin to wrap up, what is the big picture, the main takeaway for someone listening who feels overwhelmed but wants to start making a change?
The big picture is that building a meaningful, brain-healthy life does not require superhuman overachievement. It requires us to stop overcomplicating things, step off the performance treadmill, and honor the unsexy foundational basics: good sleep, intentional movement, real nutrition, and genuine human connection.
I love that. So let's give our listeners a challenge. What is one micro step, one tiny thing they could do today?
Don't try to change your entire life by tomorrow. Instead, pick exactly one thing. It could be saying a clear, unapologetic no to one unnecessary demand on your time. It could be leaving your phone on your desk and taking a simple 10-minute walk outside. Or you could open your phone right now and send a short appreciation text to a friend you haven't connected with in a while.
Small, simple, and powerful. Jessica, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today.
It was my absolute pleasure. Remember to be a gentle caretaker to the ecosystem of me. When you protect your own habitats, you cultivate the energy to be there for yourself and for the people you love.
A perfect closing thought. To our audience, thank you for listening to Practical English Studio. Take care of your brain, and we will talk next time.